Hey everybody, I wanted to give you all a quick video with some actual practical advice on how to start mountain running. Okay, so my previous video was perhaps a little bit of a clickbaity style title, and I received some feedback from somebody whose opinion that I value highly. So I thought that I would provide you all with some practical tips that you can take if you want to start mountain running. Okay, so perhaps you are a runner already, I'm assuming so, and that you're interested in some sort of mountain running, hill running, fell running, whatever you want to call it. Okay, it's a great sport, it's a very rewarding sport, it's a difficult sport, it definitely gives you an adrenaline buzz, it definitely has its risks. It's got very high risks of acute injuries, it has very high risks of even potentially death as well. So you have to be very cautious what you're doing and make sure you take all the preparations which I'm about to give you. And this list is not exhaustive. A little disclaimer here, if you go out into the hills and you hurt yourself, or if you get lost or something bad happens to you, don't come crying to me, okay? Make sure you're prepared, make sure you're safe, just be very sensible, okay? It's a dangerous place out there. So disclaimer out of the way, let's get into it. As I said, it's a great sport. I highly recommend it to anybody, and in my previous video, what I was getting to was that anybody can run up a hill or a mountain, you know? It's a great feeling to run up to the top of that peak and check out the views and just be like, I just ran up here, you know, especially if you're running past hikers. A lot of hikers get a bit annoyed with this, but you know, if your fitness is good and you can run past them and you can run up a hill and get 7 Monroes done in the time it takes them to do one, then good on you. That's what I say. Okay, so starting with a little bit of a logical order here, I recommend that you hike first. So if you've never hiked a mountain or a Monroe or even a hill, then get yourself out and hike first, okay? Make sure you know where you're going, make sure you follow most of the advice I'm about to give you that's applicable to hiking as it is to running, especially much of the safety advice. And just get comfortable in the terrain and actually have a look at what you're getting yourself in for here, okay? Don't pitch up somewhere and think you're going to run a mountain and then realise that actually this is a bad idea, you know? You might get there and think walking is enough of a thrill for you. For most people, walking is enough, okay? But if you still aspire to, you look up to the likes of Kelly and Jornay and you know, the great mountain runners of the world, and you want to get involved, then let's go for it. It's a growing sport, much as the whole world of running in terms of ultra running and even just running in general. But anyway, mountain running. Okay, so hike them first and make sure you're comfortable running on the roads or on the paths and some trails in your local area first. So some flat, kind of maybe undulating trails and stuff. Make sure you're comfortable doing that. If you're not comfortable like running on the flats, first of all, there's no point in even considering heading to the hills yet. You want to get yourself used to that actual running technique. And then you can start to, in your local area, find some hills, maybe on the roads or on the trails, that are just small hills that you can go up and down and practice that technique a little bit there. Try and find some more technical trails with some roots and rocks and boulders and things like that. And if you are comfortable doing that, you can then consider progressing onto the mountains. And I would suggest that you really practice that uphill downhill technique. Okay, I'm not going to get into the technique too much just now. I'm actually going to provide another video hopefully pretty soon. When I head up to the mountains, I'm going to give some actual technique, mountain running technique tips that you can apply and use, and you can even practice these before you head out, so you're a bit more comfortable once you get out there into the big wide world. Okay, so if it's your first time, it's a good idea, especially if you haven't done much hiking or spent much time in the mountains and your navigation is not the best, take somebody with you, or more so should I say, go with somebody, get somebody to take you, okay? Somebody who's experienced, somebody who knows the routes, who knows the hills. If you know somebody who does a bit of hill running, a bit of mountain running, or even a hiker who is a runner as well, who fancies doing a bit of running, take them with you and get them to at least be a bit of a safety person so that you know you're not going to get lost. And it's always a good idea as well. I know mountain running is generally quite a solo sport for many of us. I definitely enjoy the solo aspect of it, but I do also enjoy running with others as well. It's great to be out there with others. If you have a training partner, then you can really enjoy that experience together as well. So before you head out on your own, go with somebody else first. That's always a good idea. If you are not confident on your own, I would not suggest going out on your own. Bit of a plug here now. Next year I am planning on doing guided running in the hills and in the mountains of Scotland. Starting in Scotland, I may push it out to other areas around the world at some point, but it's just going to start in Scotland for now. Probably looking at some of the areas in Fife, around Dundee, and for the sort of smaller hills for beginner stuff, and then like some Lomond Hills, the Sidlaw Hills, and then perhaps up into, for people that want a bit more of a challenge, we can head up into the Munros, further up in the Cairngorms, and then just all around the whole of Scotland, you know. If that's interesting to you, then let me know and we can discuss it closer to the time, looking at summer of 2022, so next year. I'm a qualified mountain leader. I have a good amount of experience mountain running, and I am quite confident with the routes, more than quite confident with the routes. I've ran the hills many times, so if that's something that's interesting to you, then good stuff, and watch the space. Okay, so back to the list of things. Check the weather, okay? Make sure you check the weather right before you go. It can change very quickly, so you might check it one day, it could be nice and bright and sunny, the next day you check it and it's torrential downpours and gale force winds. So be very careful and make sure you go out in the summer first. Do not start your mountain running adventures in the winter unless you're already an experienced hiker, but I doubt you'd be watching this video if you were. So pick a nice day, try and pick a nice dry day with minimal wind, nice clear visibility so you're less likely to get lost, and make sure you also tell somebody where you're going. Okay, that's I probably should have that one of the very first things on this list, is make sure you tell somebody where you're planning on going, especially if you're on your own, and when you plan to be back. Okay, that's very important. In addition to that, you can actually take trackers. There's different types of GPS trackers you can get from Garmin. You can use, if you use Strava for your running, you can actually use the beacon on Strava, which will show your location to your family and friends. You can send it out to them and they can track you. It's pretty cool. There's also an app called What 3 Words, which will give you your exact location. Bear in mind, a lot of these applications, they rely on a signal, and a lot of the time in the mountains you don't have a signal, so you have to be a bit careful with that as well. This is where all the preparation comes in, okay? Make sure you pack a bag with all of the necessary equipment that you're going to need, the necessary emergency stuff. So you're thinking food, okay, enough food to fuel you, so when you're running you want to be consuming calories as you are running. You're going to be burning more calories than you would be if you were just be hiking, okay? So your sandwich at the top of the hill 5 hours after you've set off might not be quite enough to cut it. You might need something a bit more substantial than that. A lot of runners will take gels, they'll take sports drinks, they'll take snacks, fruits. I like to take fruit, like dates. Every sort of hour or so you want to be consuming some food and making sure that you're keeping yourself fueled, otherwise your glycogen will be depleted and you'll bonk and you'll be like, absolutely knackered. Especially if you're going to be out there for quite a long period of time, make sure you take enough food. Okay, bananas, dates, things like that are excellent choices. And take some emergency food as well. Take like some kind of snack bar or something that you've got that you're not going to eat unless you get stuck. Something happens and it's there for an emergency. Okay, that's backup food. Don't eat that as part of your running plan. Okay, take waterproofs. So full body waterproofs are, especially in somewhere like Scotland, is a very good idea. The weather can change very quickly in the mountains, so don't be caught out. You want to take some warm clothes as well, especially when it's, for example, in Scotland, even in England, it can be very cold, especially if you get stuck out there a bit longer. You have to think worst case scenario, you could be stuck out there for a bit longer than you anticipated. Make sure you take a warm layer, some sort of thermal top, hat and gloves with you. Even in the summer, if it's a lovely nice day and it's not going to rain and the temperatures are high, it's still a good idea to take this stuff with you. In the middle of the night, still the temperatures might drop. If you're stuck and you've got no food, and the wind picks up a little bit, it can start to get pretty chilly. Okay, sun protection is also a good idea. If you are going to be in the sun and it's going to be hot, especially in the summertime, you don't want to get burnt. The exposure to the sun can be quite extreme when you're up high and exposed in the mountains. And take a map, a whistle, and a compass. Okay, so map and compass, make sure you know how to use the compass and the map. Make sure you've planned your route in advance. And a whistle is a good idea. They sometimes come attached to a compass, just in case an emergency, you can blow on that to try and attract attention. Okay, you can also take like a foil blanket or an emergency blanket with you, which you can also use as a signal for a helicopter if you have to get rescued. So usually they're coming like bright orange colours, or the foil blankets are like bright silver, and it will reflect off the sun. So they're a really good thing to pack in there as well. You can get little blankets that are very small, or you can get larger, substantial ones for more adverse conditions. Okay, and make sure you take enough water with you. Okay, it's very important to take enough water. You're better off taking too much water than not enough. If you know where you're going and you know you've got springs and clean water sources en route, then you don't have to take quite as much water, but make sure you've got enough. You're going to be needing more water than you would be if you were walking, kind of, because if you're walking you're generally out for longer, it takes you longer to cover the distance, but when you're running you're going to be sweating more and your body's going to be relying on more fluid coming in. Okay, and make sure you've got the correct type of shoes on. You don't want to be heading up a Monroe or a crazy mountain with road shoes. They're not going to give you the adequate grip. If you slip and fall, you can seriously hurt yourself and end up getting yourself stuck, and you do not want to do that. Okay, so I kind of touched upon the route there. You can, some great websites in the UK, like Stephen Fallon is a great website for hiking routes and running routes, and Walk Highlands as well. And there's all sorts of other websites out there all around the world that will give you a route, and they'll give you route descriptions, how long it's going to take, a rough guide and things like that. Okay, and like I said, make sure you tell someone where you're going. I'll reiterate that again at the point. Do not get caught out here. Do not just head out and not tell anybody where you're going, because if you end up getting stuck, you're going to really regret that. A lot of the things I've said there kind of make it sound more dangerous than it is. It's not that dangerous if you're sensible and you follow these kind of simple steps of advice. Don't get yourself into a situation where you're not capable, but you'll probably be fine. Don't let that put you off. This is not an exhaustive kind of list either, so be safe out there, use common sense, make sure you're prepared. If things start to go wrong, it's not looking right, backtrack yourself the same way you came. If you get lost, try and get yourself back on track and find your way back. It's very easy to get lost up there, especially if the weather starts to come in. Okay, so I think that's quite a good list of things there. Like I said, I'm going to do a part 3 where I actually explain the technique of how to start mountain running technique. So the kind of cadence you want to be looking for, the power hiking styles, the downhill running technique in particular, things like that. So hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to see more videos like this, hit the subscribe button. If you enjoyed it, then please like it, or if you didn't enjoy it, give it a thumbs down and let me know why in the comments. Any kind of feedback is really greatly appreciated, positive, negative. There's no such thing as bad feedback. And yeah, if you're interested in guided adventures, then give me a shout, because they will be coming soon if you're in the area. And yeah, just get yourself out there and enjoy it. That's the main thing. Okay, see you later on.